question where all believers, sometimes they like, why do we have to speak in tongue if Jesus himself never spoke in tongue? But the truth of the matter is that we don't really know if Jesus did speak in tongue, because in numerous time when he prays, he pray in private. He usually goes into a place to pray by himself. So if Jesus in the book of Mark, you know, telling us that to pray in tongue, that's one of the signs of a believer. So we have to understand First Corinthians 14. Uh, Paul says, verse 2 said, "For he who speaks in a tongue does not speak to man, but to God. For no one understands him. However, in the Spirit he speaks mysteries." So Paul is telling us that those who speak in tongue, just like Jesus says, this is one of the sign will follow you as a believer. You will speak in tongue. And Paul is, confirming. Paul is, telling you that when you speak in tongue, you are not speaking the natural language. You're not speaking to man. You are speaking directly to God. You know, mysteries, when you break that down to define mysteries, mystery it's things that are too difficult to explain in the natural. So it's very important. It's the things that you are um speaking unknowingly. So verse 4 says, "He who speaks in a tongue edifies himself, but he who prophesies edifies the church." Paul is comparing the gift of prophecy and the gift of speaking in tongues. Paul says the person who speaks in tongues builds up himself, strengthening himself, improving himself, making himself stronger, building himself up in the faith. But he said, but on the other hand, those who prophesy doing the same thing for the church. So when you speak in tongue, you are, investing in yourself. You are strengthening yourself. You are speaking directly to God. It's between you and God. You're speaking mysteries. And Paul says in verse 4 that, you are building up yourself. You got to continue to do that. It's very important. Jesus understood the power of speaking in tongues. That's why he said, this is one of the signs that you will speak in tongues. And Paul goes down in verse 14. He said that, "But if I pray in a tongue, my spirit prays, but my understanding is unfruitful." In other words, Paul is saying, when I pray in a known tongue, in my spiritual language, my mind is unproductive. It's my spirit that prays to God. Because you got to understand that God is a spirit. You have three parts. You are spirit, soul, and body. But Paul said, when I'm praying in tongue, my soul does not pray with my mind, intellect, will, emotion. I'm not praying my emotion. I'm not praying in the body, but I'm praying in the spirit. So it's very important. We will always, it's been very tough, where we find in the body of Christ where pastors, leaders are, telling people you should not speak in tongue until you have someone to interpret. But Paul is saying, if I pray in tongues, my spirit prays. How are you gonna interpret something that your spirit is doing? It's impossible to do that. You cannot. It's impossible to interpret, something that is a mystery, according to First Corinthians 14, 2. That's what it says. He said that. He said, however, in the spirit he speaks mystery. He's talking about speaking in tongue. That's a mystery right there. So we gotta really understand. We gotta be careful, guys. It's just like, Jesus understood the power of speaking in tongue. Paul is telling us the same thing. The disciple, in the upper room, they received the gift of speaking in tongue. They transform the whole world because they know the importance of speaking in tongue. So as believer, you have to speak in tongue. You have to pray in tongue. You have to exercise your spiritual language because this is a higher dimension of prayer. This is a prayer, just like Paul says. He said, those who pray in tongue, they are praying directly to God. He said, my spirit is praise, but my mind, my understanding is unproductive. Very important. Very important. He said that he who speaks in tongues does not speak to men but to God. So why are you afraid to speak in tongues? Why are you afraid to speak directly to God? He said that your mind is unfruitful. Your mind does not understand it, but your spirit is praying through you. That's what you call mystery. You cannot explain that. Don't let no one, rob you from what God has given you. The greatest gift, one of the most important gift, is the gift of speaking in tongue, your spiritual language, your prayer language, so you can pray in the spirit. Think about it. If Jesus says it and Paul confirms it, you gotta do it. All right. Don't stop praying in tongue, because this is one of the prayer where the devil cannot comprehend. He cannot understand.